Welcome back to Questing Beast, I'm Ben. Today we're taking a look at an infinity of ships. This is a very system-neutral supplement for pretty much any science fiction role-playing game. Are you playing Traveler? Are you playing Mothership? Are you playing Stars Without Number? Well, you're going to need a lot of spaceships. Whether the players are designing their own ship at the start of the game, or whether you need lots of ships to throw at them during random encounters, this thing has you covered, because it has an infinity of ships. This is a book of random tables, which gives you a virtually unlimited number of options when it comes to creating new StarCraft. I've looked at books that are similar to this in the past. For example, The Perilous Void, which is a similar concept, but all the random tables are mostly focused on generating the rest of the universe. There's a few random tables in here for ships, but this thing focuses on that very tightly. And in addition to it, you can also get this box of cards that allow you to pull out pictures of ships really quickly and generate weird little technological subsystems that they have. We'll look at that once we finish going through the book. Here's our back cover, an expansive toolkit for creating unique spaceships for sci-fi role-playing games, 150 pages of generator tables, adventures, and resources, dozens of strange and wonderful ships with full-color illustrations to inspire, and infinite possibilities. The inside covers have a kind of example ship that you could make using the tables. And then we have our credits. This was written by Adam Good and Jamie Perez, illustrations by Rob Turpin, with lots of contributions from other people as well. There's a section on how to use this book, but if you've ever played a role-playing game before, you know how to use this book. You're going to be rolling on tables, or of course, selecting from tables and curating them to create the kinds of material that you want. As we go through the book, it'll frequently give you these example ships that show how you can apply those tables and remix them to create something special. For example, this weird little guy is called One Bread and One Body, and nearby ships experience data loss, voices carrying through mist and flickering shadows, and when observed from a distance, they're singing, dreaming, and folding. Its key tech are biorhythmic synchronizers, neural grapplers, and bone fraggers. There's lots of, techno-babble generators all throughout this book. Because this is system neutral, it doesn't always explain exactly what all these terms mean. It's more up to you to piece together what they suggest. And the basic outline of your ship can be generated just using this table. So you're going to need a class, a scope, and a type. For example, you might be a mountain class, Imperial Salvager, or a Revelation class, General Cruiser, or maybe a Gotham class, Citizen Miner. The class tends to give you the aesthetics or the vibe that your ship is going for, whereas the scope and the type get a lot more specific about what kind of thing the ship is and what does it do. Tons of descriptors, lots of adjectives you can mix and match to get more detail on how the ship looks, like it's eclectic, or it's oozing, or it's rusty. You can use this table to generate all sorts of weird experimental tech I might have on board, like perhaps it has quantum primitive nets, or maybe it has stealth and singing missiles, logic drives, or fusion grapplers. You can create all sorts of weird stuff here. But one of the most entertaining tables in the whole book is just the list of names. This is always so great because it gives the ship so much character, and it's also great whenever you're out in space and you come across an encounter and they hail you and they say, "This is the certificate of authenticity," or "This is the exit pursued by a bear." Most of these are very quirky. They rely on memes. They rely on phrases from poetry. It's all of the different stuff that a slightly deranged captain might come up with in the depths of space. But once you have the basics of your ship down, what are all of the details and subsystems within it? We'll take a look at that in a second, but first a shout out to today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Cyberdark, a fast, lethal, old-school inspired RPG for cyberpunk adventures, based on Shadowdark and now funding on Kickstarter. In Cyberdark RPG, you and your crew of Dark Runners dash through neon nights, chasing credits, data, and survival in a world ruled by corps, mercs, and gangs. On the streets, every deal is a risk, but in the Cyberdark, every breach could be your last. Don't let your firewall burn out, because when it does, the shadows come alive and rogue AIs will find you. If you're a fan of Shadowdark or science fiction, you have to check out Cyberdark right now, using the link down in the description below. Some of the systems you might have on board your ship, you might have a science lab that is modular but has been hacked, or maybe an information system that is stealthy but unreliable. Every once in a while, there's a big 2-page spread illustration of some crazy ship. And I also noticed that it is in fact stitched bound. You can see the stitching right there. So this is very solid, feels really good. If you want an onboard AI for your ship, maybe his name is Stu, and his main job is being a janitor. But what he's really interested in is psychedelics. You can generate the AI's personality and what quirks they have. There's tables for making a captain with their own jump phrase. So whenever you go to light speed, you might say, I want to go now, or perhaps, please proceed, or just punch it. Generate the crew that you have on board, or drones that you can launch that all have different special abilities and little functions. Lots of examples of different drones you might have. You can get even crazier and start going into the gender and or sexuality of your AI. But the thing about this book is that being made out of lots of random tables is the sort of thing that you can dial up and down however you want. Do you want to get really gonzo and get into a lot of really specific details about every weird aspect of your ship? Because if you roll on all of these random tables, things are going to get very goofy and strange very quickly. If you're playing in a campaign that's a lot more grounded, you're probably going to have to be a little bit more careful in the things that you select from these tables so that they fit more coherently. Every major area on the ship also gets its own random table to flesh it out. So you have like the bridge, piloting and navigation, engineering, the power station, your general quarters where all your crew live, the mess hall, the recreation room, the medical bay, and so on and so forth. Like if you're in the lab, then you might have shelves cluttered with alchemical vials. But its questionable speciality is interstellar vexillology, which is the study of flags. The vibe might be an H.R. Geiger dreamscape, and the items that you might find might be semi-immortal shrink rays, or patented probes, or invasive interns. Like I said, randomly generating all this stuff can create very strange or somewhat incoherent results. So you're going to have to kind of put a bit of creativity into figuring out what that means, or just reselecting things. A lot of the results are really funny though, like perhaps in the armory you might find the much dog-eared copy of Sun Tzu's The Art of War, machine translated between so many alien languages that it now reads like a bad self-help manual. And the safety compliance level of the armory is, I live, I die, I live again. There's plenty of great inspiration in the pre-designed ships too, like this one is Coffees for Closers, a greed-class heavy trader. Its key tech is value scramblers, social amplifiers, and Nova-coded tractor spikes. Developed by the popular meta-level marketing company Synergy is Now, Coffees for Closers harnesses the power of social networks to recruit distributor cells, which are friend groups, with the promise of a quick riches selling disruptive data product in adjacent star systems. Individual recruits are beamed up to the ship via its great eye and replaced by Sin drones imprinted with their personalities. A whole spread of just random stuff that you might find as you are exploring from room to room, perhaps in a derelict wreck. And it goes from basic stuff to useful, strange, stranger, exotic, and WTF. Want to tune into the radio in deep space? Perhaps you listen to some giga jazz or maybe some neuropop. Its attribute is that it has long buildups of flutes or random sandstorms or painfully loud dial-up modem sounds. This is a great illustration right here of a huge colony ship. Reminds me of the kind of art that you would see on early pulp paperbacks. Next, we zoom out a bit to look at things like ship manufacturers, like perhaps the manufacturer is Pogo Optics or Subspace United. Their slogan is, now that's what I call space travel, and maybe their reputation is luxurious. That's another great illustration right there. Reminds me of Deep Space Nine a little bit. You can also generate new factions. This would work really well with sci-fi games like Stars Without Number. What the group is, maybe it's a mercenary corp, and it is obsessed with economics or obsessed with revolution. And maybe this mercenary corp is really known for wearing bone masks, having a lot of hidden wealth, and inflatable art. And there's a bunch more ship designs over here. The Wicked Moonbeam, that's a cool looking one. Divisible Touch, Tomorrow's Promise, a Campbell-class eccentric exploration vessel. One nice thing is that at the back of the book, there was a whole section just for theme packs. And this is when you want to dial into a specific genre or vibe, use the theme packs to quickly create a coherent spaceship. So if your campaign or maybe the section of space that you're in is in a more Lovecraftian area of the universe, then you might use the body prison page. That'll give you names like Beg for Torture or Cracked Altar, and it'll give you a Hammer class Assault Chapel or a Shrike class Sin Frigate. This is feeling very Warhammer 40,000. But also there's Color Theory, Sad Cowboys, if you want to go with a more Firefly-esque vibe for your universe. Acronyms that you can use. Spiritual, like maybe the name of the ship is Be Light or Channel the Spirits. If you want to get really goofy, maybe just have a meme theme for all of the ships in your game, like Leroy Jenkins or the Shadow Nose. There's also Aggro, Gods and Monsters, Organics. There's Space Horror, Below the Line. And then the last section here, before we get to the adventures, is just a bunch more sample ships. The Player of Games, I think that's an actual reference to the Culture series by Ian Banks. That name sounds really familiar, although I haven't actually read those books. I think I read part of one of them. We come in pieces, which is a very Voltron or Gundam Wing themed ship. Lots of little drones that can swarm together to attack their enemies. Ask me about my Gravitas, a Vavech class megaship. The Arcturus, the asteroids Maw, Sneaks and the Professor. And then we have a section on encounters and adventures. This whole section is really kind of a mixed bag. In terms of how useful it is, I think it's okay at giving examples of how you might kind of pull all these tables together into a more fleshed out area to explore. But I don't know how well they would work as an adventure per se. I think they need probably a bit more polish. For example, we have this adventure where you wake up from hypersleep on this ship. They say that they picked you up from somewhere and you don't remember how you got there. But you seem to be on this ship that's traveling with all of these pilgrims to see a singularity. And the twist is that the ship is actually docked at a station and isn't going anywhere. And the stars flying by on the view screens are just part of an illusion. The captain of the ship is really just defrauding all of these pilgrims and making them think that they're going to see some special event that their religion revolves around, but that's not actually real at all. You can poke around a little bit, find maybe a couple of clues that things aren't quite right, but that's about it. Eventually, the pilgrims are going to figure out that they've been defrauded and things might go off the rails a bit. But there isn't a whole lot to do in here. There's not enough NPCs that are fleshed out that you could really talk to them. There's a lot of rooms that are connected via text, but there's no actual diagram of how the ship is laid out, which I found to be very strange. The other adventure is the Buzzkill on the Mind trip. And in this one, you're on board this ship, and these weird creatures that you find on board are using the cheese that's stored on board the ship to kind of reuse it to turn it into a new substance that converts the ship into an environment that's more friendly for them. So as you move from room to room on the ship, you have to deal with the new environment that's being created. You have encounters with these aliens. You just find strange things in the rooms and you try and survive. There's not really a whole lot to it. There's some pretty horrifying hyperjump side effects, like maybe Tetsuo syndrome. The crew and the ship swap material properties, changing the ship into a biopunk nightmare and the crew into cybernetic ghosts in the shell. That's it for the book, but there's also this box of cards that you can buy that goes along with it, which in many ways makes it a lot more useful than it otherwise would have been. It comes with an instruction card, which you can pretty much ignore because it's just a pile of cards that you can mix and match. It works a lot like a random table. And there's a number of cards with different types of things on them. So designations right here, you can mix and match class, scope, and type. So this is kind of like a little cheat sheet if you don't want to open the book, I guess. A bunch of cards of just different name types, kind of organized into those themes like grimdark, sad cowboy, aggro, and so forth that we saw in the book, but just abbreviated so you can pull this out and quickly get names. The biggest chunk of cards that you can see right here is basically different types of technology. These are all things that you could probably roll up on the weird technology tables, but when you do that, you just get strange names that you have to interpret. What's nice about these is that it comes with a paragraph that actually tells you how each of these work. And there's two of them on each card. You kind of have to turn it upside down to see both sides of it. So maybe if you had a ship approaching, you could decide that it has kaleidoscopes or a nuclear hyper-response horizon. What is that? When activated, any non-hydrogen matter crossing the spherical perimeter centered on the ship will trigger a nuclear explosion at the point of incursion. Or maybe you've got something like good old force fields. Or she's real spiky, a set of rippling, undulating spikes covering the hull. Just viewing them penetrates the mind of the observer. Or murdered out hull. Metallic glitter cloud, a shimmering, swirling cloud that masks the ship's location, interferes with signal processing, and disrupts projectiles all at once in the most gorgeous way. So this is really nice for getting a little bit more practical in terms of what the ships can do. So you don't have to on the fly come up with descriptions and explanations for what all these words mean. You just got it spelled out for you. And the last section of cards is also a ton of fun. These are just simply ship pictures. So when the players encounter a random ship, you can say, coming out of the nebula is this thing. And they can immediately picture what it is that they're fighting. One thing that the book recommends is that some of these things appear to be larger or smaller, but the scale of them is really up to you. You can decide that this gigantic ship is really a tiny little drone, right? Or you can decide that something that looks really small is actually a lot larger, right? This looks like a little robot buddy, but maybe it's a big mech type thing. So that's an infinity of ships and instant starships. These are what I would consider to be essential tools. If I was running an open universe science fiction game, these things would save me a lot of time and trouble. One of the most important things in any RPG is that when you have an encounter with some other being or ship or whatever, it should be interesting, it should grab their attention, it should get them thinking about how they're going to deal with it. And both the images on the cards and all of the ideas in this book combine together to quickly give you things to grab onto. Some of them are just funny and might crack your players up, but a lot of them are quite gameable and are about presenting a strange situation or an obstacle that your players have to navigate around. It's great for using on the fly, it's great for prepping. Overall, I was very impressed by the whole package. It's the kind of product that I wish was made more for role-playing games. Stuff that gives you real content that makes it easier to game master. As usual, I will put links in the description below for where you can pick these up in print or in PDF form. And thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time.